Oh, lucky.
We'll have to do that again. No, so I'm super passionate about CrossFit. I've been doing CrossFit myself for probably 13, 14 years. So when I started doing this, CrossFit gyms in the UK were not even really a thing. I couldn't tell you where they were, but there was really only kind of 10 of them, and they were just in major cities. So central London, Birmingham, and then you could reach out to wider places like Glasgow, Belfast, etc. But they weren't really a thing. It was big in America, but hadn't really come here. And how I got into it was basically a member came up to me, was like, I've seen this thing on the internet, I've seen a workout, do you fancy doing it? And sometimes that's how people get into CrossFit. But it's not, people's perception of CrossFit can sometimes be that it's just a mix of random shit, all pushed together, and hopefully you get a little bit fitter as a result. And what I want you to take away from today is that actually there's a lot more thought into what happens to try and prevent chronic disease. And that's the bigger picture. So I'm going to talk through kind of the history of CrossFit. So skip on. Cap. Yeah. I took some of these photos, so that's why I wanted to put them in, and Osmo, I apologise in advance. So we're going to talk through the state of health, what health looks like. Some of these are statistics from the World Health Organization, some of them are from the CDC. We're going to talk through the history of CrossFit, defining fitness, and I'll explain that as we get to it, and then the prescription, what the methodology kind of looks like. And so hopefully you take something away from today, understanding that it is not just a random set of exercises all squashed together, okay? That there is actually a lot of science that can kind of go behind it, but we don't want you to turn up to your sessions and be bored with the scientific whys of how we're doing each individual thing. But it's to kind of tell you that if we want the workout to take 20 minutes, there's a reason why. And that's because hopefully the workout the day before should have taken you 5 or 40. And then we start to get into various different time domains and things like that, that as you'll see today, work different energy systems. Okay, so we're trying to build full capacity and full health. So, my first question to you, before I bring it up on the slide, I hope that the statistics don't jump up. Perfect. Current state of health. So this is the serious bit, okay? And this is ultimately why I do my job, because I got into CrossFit, I love the competitive aspect, I wanted to get my first ever muscle up, okay? And then I had a child, and my mindset changed, basically. So my daughter was born, and it changed how I viewed things as a coach. I want her to live a full, healthy life, and I want you guys to feel the same, okay, and do the same. Now, as a byproduct of that, if you happen to get your first ever muscle up, great. It means that you're improving your strength, you're improving your capacity, and the result means that you get those higher skill movements. So that's just through a development of strength. But actually, your overall goal should be to try and make yourself the healthiest version that you could be. And that's for longevity, okay? For a longer life, essentially. So, first statistic, number of people, percentage based, in the world that die from a chronic disease. Now, chronic disease is, on most cases, completely preventable. So, a chronic disease is defined as something which is through a lifestyle choice kind of forced upon you. Okay, it's longer term, which is why it's chronic. You have it typically for a year, but if you improved your lifestyle factor, the likelihood is that that disease would then go away. So for example, high blood pressure, asthma, high blood cholesterol, not the good kind, obviously, heart disease, diabetes type 2, those kind of things are lifestyle-based illnesses and are therefore defined as chronic disease. So, hot shot guess at the percentage of the world that die from a preventable chronic disease. Preventable in most cases. Shout out random numbers. 20, 30, 65, 70. Okay. The answer is 75% of all deaths are caused by chronic disease. Now, that can be because of genetic things that then cause complications. A huge factor of this is actually to do with wealth, and that there's a huge number of people in the world that can't afford to eat really well, exercise proficiently, so it's not all completely preventable. But I'm sure that you'll appreciate that the majority of you will be in a position where you can actually make a positive impact, not only on yourself, but people around you, okay? And that's one of the things that you might end up taking away from today, is that there might be people in your life, and we've had this, Jay and I, even here, where some people will like to keep CrossFit for themselves, because it's like, it's my thing. I don't want my friends to really do it. I don't want them to get what I get out of this. And possibly, you don't want them to be in the same class as you. And that's ultimately why you don't want to then like share that out to other people, okay? But you're kind of doing them a disservice. Because if they're then going to a commercial gym, and some of you may have then been the same as this, you sit on a treadmill, you run for 45 minutes, you sit in a sauna for the same length of time, then you shower, you go home, you repeat that 4 or 5 times. Are you really improving all aspects of your health? And hopefully you'll realise as we go through the different levels of what we classify as fitness, when we look at our 10 key skills, are you developing your agility when you run on a treadmill all the time? Are you developing your coordination, your balance, things like that, which actually as you get older are super, super important. I've been training Osman's dad, and he's 84, you might have seen his post today. So we just do like balance work. And in 3 weeks, he's gone from being unable to balance on one leg holding a stick to now doing it himself. And that's a big improvement. And it's really important, because if he walks down to the shops and he falls over, I want to know that he's more likely to step and catch himself. And that's the bigger picture. I'm not doing it because I want him to do this at home and hold on to his fingers. Okay, I want him to not fall over. That's the point. Okay, and that's the bigger picture as you then get older. Now, what happens if you don't die from a chronic disease? You die from what's called the icks. Quite like that. So, 4 different terms: genetic disease, toxic, kinetic, and microbic. So to give you some examples of these, genetic might be cystic fibrosis. You're born with it. You know, you basically were dealt a shit hand. So the likelihood is that you'd sadly die a little bit younger from having something like cystic fibrosis. Toxic would be poisoning of some form, you know, gas poisoning, whatever it might be. Kinetic is car accident, fall off your bike, something that is caused by, you know, movement essentially, or some form of something that causes that. And then microbic would be bacterial infection, virus, COVID for example, would have been microbic in some way, shape or form. Now, these are not preventable in certain cases. They can be managed, okay, and obviously cured in some cases as well, but most of the time this is just luck, okay? And so what we're trying to get out of today is that your fitness plus your luck, and it can only be bad luck, okay? You very rarely would get a virus that makes you live for the rest of your, you know, makes you live till you're 120. This is only going to be shit luck, okay? Therefore equals your health. Now, we could do nothing about this in most cases, okay? I'm getting this from mostly lectures that I've watched, people that have really influenced my view on CrossFit. And one of the things that was that I also kind of agree with is, let's take something toxic, heroin, for example. Tough subject to talk about, but Greg Glassman's view, and Greg, I'll come on to Greg in a minute, his view is that toxic, if somebody walked up to you in the street, jabbed you with heroin, and you died from it, that would be a toxic incident. You had really shit luck. It wasn't your fault, it was a random incident, it wasn't your luck. However, if you inject yourself with heroin all the time, that's a chronic disease. You decide to do that at some point. Somebody gets you into that addiction, it builds up over time, and eventually you pass away from it. That's a chronic disease. So we can see things in different ways, okay? You could put smoking, alcoholism, things like that into that same kind of category, okay? So, we're going to talk about how you can improve your fitness and how we try and help you and aid you to do that, okay? Important part that I forgot to mention, there's no effective treatment for chronic disease, only management in that sense. So if you get type 2 diabetes and you go to hospital with it, you are able to manage your diabetes, but it's not going to reverse it. Okay, the only thing that's been proven to do that is diet and exercise. And so we are here to facilitate that aspect. Okay, you can manage it, but you can't reverse it. And the analogy that's really good, and I was talking to Osma about this the other day, she was like, you've got to say this, you've got to share it, is that when you are in one of these scenarios here, or you have chronic disease that is getting to the point where you need to then be hospitalized, you need medical intervention. If you're in a car accident, you need medical intervention. You don't need diet and exercise. Okay, you don't need burpees. More burpees isn't necessarily going to help you recover from a car accident. Okay, might help prevent death if you're stronger, fitter, but in most cases, you need a doctor. And we can see those as your lifeguards in a way. Okay, so taking that swimming analogy, myself, Jamie, Kirsten, all of your CrossFit coaches should be seen as swim coaches. Okay, we're trying to teach you to better your fitness and your health in order to deal with disease, okay, in a better way, okay, and to be able to prevent disease in a better way. So if somebody can't swim, if they are drowning, they need a lifeguard. They need intervention, they need saving. But we are here to try and teach you to swim in the first place, so you then don't need that medical intervention, okay? So we're here to try and stave off that level of illness. He's a hungry boy, what can we say? Does that make sense? Yeah, that's why we're here. We're here so that you don't need medical intervention. You can kind of see it that way. Now, to move on, the happier stuff. So, any questions on the health aspect, first of all? Cool, we'll try and pick you up a little bit from here. Make you a bit happier. So, CrossFit was founded in 2000. It was founded by Greg Glassman. Now, this is before 2000. Rented like the corner of a karate gym and just started training clients there. Eventually got so busy, he then needed to open up a warehouse. And the warehouse didn't have any machines in it. It was just boxes, dumbbells, barbells, nothing that you could plug into the wall. And all of the clients would come in and basically do bodyweight movements, barbell movements, dumbbell movements like we do with you guys now. And then it grew into more affiliates, which you call them, because one of his friends comes in and goes, I really love this model, I want to do it. How do I get involved? What do you call it? And he was like, I call it CrossFit. And he was like, that's cool. Can I take that name and put it on my gym? He was like, yeah, sure. Like, you don't need to pay me anything, just take it, sure. And at the time, he thought, this is going to be wicked. I'm going to have a Santa Cruz north, south, east, west. That would be wicked. So his vision was originally just like 5 gyms. And then it became 10 gyms, 20 gyms, 50 gyms. And it just started to grow across America because he set up a journal online, which you can still see, a website where you can still follow workouts every single day. And it just ballooned to a point where I think in its capacity there were 40,000 CrossFit gyms in the world. Maybe I got that wrong. But a hell of a lot more than just 5. And that's how it grew. There's a little bit less now because of issues around COVID and things like that, but the methodology definitely still works. Now the reason it works is it's evidence-based, and this is what I was primarily wanting to try and educate you guys on today, that there's actually a lot of thought behind what we do, and some of it's backed by science, and we then try and just push that out into workouts. But I'm going to hopefully show you how the methodology was built and where that science then applies. So you just have a better understanding of why we do what we do. The community was built from the CrossFit Games. It took place on the ranch in America. Can you remember where the ranch is? Can you remember where the ranch is? I can't remember the home base of the ranch. Santa Rosa? Yeah. I think, Santa Rosa, California. And it was basically meant to be like a barbecue. So like kind of what we do, like let's meet up, some of the most competitive athletes, let's do this. And again, it just ballooned into now a worldwide competition. So the Open starts in 5 weeks, about 5 weeks time. And so if you enter the Open and you're in the top 1%, you then go to semi-finals, you win that, you go to, quarterfinals, then semi-finals. Aromas, thank you, California. So if you then win those, you get an invite to go to the games, and you'll be competing against the top 20, 30 fittest men and women in the world. So you start in the gym. Everybody does the same. It's just you then get to benchmark where you're at the moment, and then compete all the way up to whatever point you qualify to. And that's how it's kind of started and has grown from there. And now it's, essentially seen as a sport. And I think CrossFit gets a negative name because of this. People perceive it to be, if you Google it right now, you'll see Rich Froning with his popping abs out, snatching 200 kilos or whatever he snatches. And then people go, well, I can't do that, so I'm not going to join a CrossFit gym. And hopefully you know us well enough that actually I can do CrossFit with an 84-year-old. He doesn't know it's CrossFit, but it is. I don't stick him on a treadmill and press go. So he is using his own body weight. He did a workout yesterday, which I put on that post of farmers carrying sumo deadlift high pulls. Like, I was getting him to use his posterior chain, getting his cardio up. He was doing CrossFit. That's what it is. It just looks really different. I could then take you guys, run you through the same workout. Your sumo deadlift high pull is going to be with a 50 kilo barbell if you're going RX. Your farmer's carry is going to be a hell of a lot heavier, but the workout is the same. It's just at a different capacity depending on your ability. Okay, so it is for everyone. And I personally believe that the sport has ruined that a little bit, because people's perception is you've already got to be really freaking fit to start, and that's just not the case. So let's define fitness. CrossFit's definition. Do you remember this, Kirsten? Not to test you. Do you remember?
Functional fitness at high intensity.
Work capacity. Cool. So work capacity over broad time and modal domains. And we're going to break this down. Okay? So work capacity is the amount of work you do. Now we could definitely I'm going to need somebody with their phone to do this. Okay? I'll rub this out. I want to see what you've got on the board, by the way. So, what I mean by work capacity is the amount of work that is done. And I want this to be I want you to try and remember that it's therefore not the person that lifts the heaviest weight that is the fittest person in the gym. That's what I want you to take away from this. Okay? So I'm going to need your help. Anybody with a phone. So, let's take an example. I'm going to try and make this simple for myself. Okay? Let's assume that a barbell moves from the ground to above the head is 2 meters. Let's make that assumption. We have 2 athletes of the same height, and for argument's sake, they're the same body weight.
Are you just trying to prove a point right now that it's harder for you than for the tiny people? that's where this goes.
No, but you've got a point. Okay, so athlete A, again, same body weight, same height. They're all moving the barbell 2 meters. Athlete A has, let's pick a number, 50 kilos on the bar. Okay? Athlete B has 70? Let's go 70 kilos on the bar. Now they do Grace. Grace is 30 clean and jerk. Okay? So from the floor to above the head, 30 repetitions. Okay? Now, 30 reps. 30 reps. Now the one thing that I'm going to need help with is if this person manages to complete the workout in, let's say, 4 minutes, this person completes it in 6. Right now, who looks like the fitter person? I think most people would go here. They used 70 kilos, took 6 minutes, they probably look fittest. But we actually need to then calculate as to whether that's the case. And we do that by working out your power output. So, our calculation is force. So we need to times repetitions by the weight. So 30 times 50. I'm not doing mental maths.
15 times 50.
1500. Now, They are also fighting against gravity. Gravity is 8.91 Newton, 9.81. 9.81. So take that number.
So shall we go really specific?
Hold on, we're getting this. I'm getting to a point. 1500 times 9.81, please.
14,715.
14,715. Now, 4 minutes in seconds, 6, 12, 8 in 240. Divide that number by 240, Paddy, please.
61.3125.
61.
Good job, Paddy.
61.
61?
61.3125. Oh, God, what?
I'm not so bad anymore, am I?
No, that's fine. So then we need to do the same on this side. So 2,100. Then we times by 9.81.
20,601.
But their time took longer. What is that? 360.
57.
57.225.
Who's the fitter individual? A, because their power output was higher. Okay? So the whole point of this is we are trying to achieve work capacity, but we are trying to get the highest level of power output from you. Okay? Now, how do you do that? You're not going to sit there and like try and do the maths yourself. But this comes with experience in what the workout should feel like. So whenever your coaches say, right, I want you to do 5 repetitions, touch and go, without putting the bar down, and then take a short break, repeat it, that's because we want to try and exert the most power output we can from the workout. If you think, fuck that guy, I'm going to do singles, and I'm going to go nice and slow, okay? You're not exerting max power output, which, if we go back, means you're not improving your fitness as much as you could, okay? So we need max power output where we can. Does that make sense? That's the only complicated bit. Now, broad time means that we work through various different time frames, and we'll come on to different energy systems later on and talk through why that is. But essentially, there is actually thought behind when we go, the workout should take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. If you did Saturday, 45 minutes, okay? If you do a marathon run, whatever your marathon time is, okay? Different time frames is what we're looking for. If you go on a hike for 12 hours, do you have the capacity to do that? That is fitness, okay, across all domains. So this is where our argument of like a triathlete or a marathon runner or a 100-meter sprinter wouldn't necessarily qualify as the fittest individual in the world, because if I then put them into a 2-day hike, how would the 100-meter sprinter get on with that? We'd have to test it to find out. But the whole point of measuring all of these different things that we get you to do is, can I get you to a point where you could run a 10K, but you could also deadlift double your body weight? That's what I want you to achieve. I don't want you to necessarily run a 10K in a world record breaking time. I want you to be strong enough and functional enough that if you see that your mate has got stuck underneath a car, you can at least have a go at trying to lift it up because of what you lift in the gym, rather than thinking, well, if I had my treadmill, I'd be really fit at this. Yeah? We want you to be able to be as physically fit for all of these things in day-to-day life as possible. And so that comes on to mobile domains, all of the different activities. So if you only ever ran, but you ran at all of these different time frames, would you still be classified as fit?
No.
Probably not. Because you can't lift weight effectively, you probably have limited mobility because you've been stuck in that same linear range of motion, that same sport all the time. So we need to expose you to as many different domains as possible. And when we come to like fitness in 100 words later on, you'll see there's loads of stuff in there that I still can't do. I don't practice enough. You guys might not be able to do the same. So it's pursuing getting fitter towards some of those things. Makes sense so far? Mm-hmm. So fitness defined by CrossFit as work capacity over broad time and mobile domains. Any questions so far? Okay. There are 4 models for CrossFit's kind of definition of fitness, and you should kind of see in a way that your workouts fit into these models in some way, shape or form. So the first is our 10 key skills. What we're going to do is a little task, because I haven't got you to talk for a while, is to name me one exercise that falls into each one of these. So let's start with the easy one. Cardiovascular resistance. Respiratory endurance, sorry. Run. Others? Burpees.
You sound
Definitely.
Yeah, very
Skipping.
much.
Yep. Bike. Who did the lunges today?
Yeah.
Yeah? How was your heart rate? Yeah? Basically anything we do, right? Yeah? Now, depending on the time frame, we're starting to build endurance. Endurance, we want you to use your aerobic capacity. That really is actually only anything longer than 2 minutes. So you're starting to work your aerobic system when you go past 2 minutes. So anything longer than 2 minutes that you do, you're kind of improving your endurance. All right? Stamina. Same? Yeah? The difference between the two would be that there's no like drop off. So your stamina would be that I say, jump on the bike, give me 20 minutes at the same pace all the way through. Your stamina is, I managed to get that pace higher and maintain it for longer. Yeah, makes sense? So if you can get a slightly higher power output and then sustain it over a longer period of time, that's your stamina, okay? Whereas endurance would be that you can maintain it, but that starts to kind of drop down, but you can keep going for a longer period of time. Okay, stamina is kind of the maintenance of that energy over time. Strength. Easy one.
Clean.
Clean.
Deadlifts.
Deadlift. Anything with a dumbbell. Anything with a wall ball. Anything with a barbell. Yeah. Essentially kind of using external load. For Osmer's dad, standing on one leg. Yeah. So again, it's widely applicable depending on where your fitness is at the moment. Okay. It doesn't mean that most of you will now go home, stand on one leg and go, I'm now nailing my strength, okay? It's all relative to where your current levels of strength are. So you're trying to then grow that over time. Movements that improve flexibility, not stretching. We don't prescribe stretching necessarily in workouts.
Skin the cat.
In what muscle group?
Shoulders.
I knew one. What the hell is the skin the cat? It sounds horrible, doesn't it?
Demonstration?
Feel free to. It's when you like rotate round on the rings into a hang and then come back round. Shoulder mobility, yeah. Anything else?
Kipping.
Squat. Thank you for the obvious answer. Squat, definitely. Okay, and that's because we ask you to get lower into your squats over time. So you might join us and you squat here to start with, but 6 months later, you notice that actually you can start to squat a little bit lower. Have you improved your flexibility?
Yes.
Yeah, so the squat is there, okay? So any movement that improves your range of motion, essentially. Power, combination of speed and strength.
Kipping pull-ups, butterfly pull-ups.
Yeah, kip, definitely. Yeah.
Box ups.
1 rep max.
Toes to bar, probably. Might be a bit more core endurance. 1 rep maxes. Yeah. Deadlift, clean and jerk, snatch, 100-meter sprint, something like that, that exerts a lot of power, essentially, okay? So you're trying to go fast with either weight being body weight or weight on your barbell, okay? Speed, that's pretty simple. The pace in which you do something, yeah, barbell cycling, run, row, ski, again, whatever it might be. Coordination. Handstands would be a good one. Clean and jerk.
Skipping.
Yeah. What part of the clean and jerk? The bar?
Split.
Yeah. Yeah. Cool. Sorry. Skipping? Absolutely. Double unders.
Yeah.
Yeah? When you keep catching the rope on your feet, that's coordination. Because you're already on your way down, the rope hits, that's coordination. It's not balance, you're not falling over, it's not agility, it's not change of direction or where your feet go, it is coordination of you and an external object. Okay, so barbell would be that case. In a split jerk, The coordination is, do I have an understanding of where to catch the bar? When you learn weightlifting for the first time, it goes this way, you're learning that eventually I need to land in position. Okay? With that barbell overhead. I know I can't straighten my arms after Saturday. Okay. Agility.
Shuttle run.
Oh, huh?
Over under, you go like that without.
Over under. You're picking difficult movements.
What's with
I mean, an over under here. Probably not. That would be more power or strength. That'd be coordination.
A kip swing?
Burpee, yes. Depending on your ability. Burpee when you're a beginner, definitely. What did you
Kip
say?
swing?
Kip swing.
Like, because you need to like.
Probably not. Not really a change of direction. You're not really landing. Box jumps. It's quite linear.
Do you know when you make a
Yeah, probably box jump. Particularly if you don't land straight on. You'll be working your agility a lot more if you jump sideways. The big one is your split jerk. So the agility to move your feet fast enough and stick your landing would be your agility, because it's actually quite a big change in direction. You don't go straight forward and back. You actually go out to the side. So you change direction with your movement. So you go from here and you split. The faster you can do that, the more you can stick the landing, the more agile you are. And then shuttle runs would be an obvious one. Get to the end, turn and go. Your agility would be the speed and change in direction. Balance.
handstand, freestand.
Handstand's an obvious one. Single leg squat, pistols. Yeah.
Lunging for me.
Lunging, easy one. Yeah.
Split jerk.
Split jerk. Yeah. Anything where you feel like you're on your toes or back.
Snatches.
So for some people that could even be deadlifts. If you feel like you pull the bar off the ground and you go weight into your heels too much, it's your balance that's the issue there. So learning to balance through the middle of the foot is the skill you need to develop. So a wide array. And accuracy, our favourite one, wall ball. Yeah, the throw of that. I'd also argue like accuracy in where the barbell goes as well. I know that kind of fits into coordination a little bit. But if you're trying to do 30 clean and jerks as quick as you can, where that bar lands on the shoulder and above the head, the accuracy of getting that bar into the same place over and over again would be that kind of repeated exercise, and it's intended. Okay, so that's our first model. We are trying to develop those 10 key physical skills with every exercise that we prescribe to you. Second one, this is kind of how the CrossFit Games started, and it's called the Hopper model, and it's basically that we could create any workout. We could actually do this and I'll program it for you. We could create any workout through a random selection of exercises and time frames and weights. So why don't we do that now? Shout out an exercise. Burpee. Who said that? You can thank Amy for this one. Okay, burpee. Next exercise, come on, I'm not just doing burpees this time.
Rope climb. A burpee rope climb. I mean, come on. Yeah, it
Give
could
me
be.
two more.
Handstand go up.
25 would work.
None of us are turning up for this one.
I'm going to stick with strict press. I'll explain why. Cool. Jamie, let's pick you. Pick a number between 1 and 5.
3.
Ozma, any number.
20.
Well, you knew that was going to be the big one.
Alex, any number?
2. You said between 1 and 5?
No, fine.
Oh shit.
No, I said any number.
Oh, sorry, 10.
Would you still pick the same number?
Yeah.
Pick 2 or 10? 2 or 10?
10.
Okay. Alright, 2.
Yeah.
Yeah, fine. There you go. 2 to 10. Toast bar. 1.
7.
25.
Make it an odd number.
5.
25. Picked.
Yeah, none of us are
Okay. This was an example of what happened during the games the first time. So in the hopper, they literally had 50, 60 different exercises. You spin it, pick out a random exercise, but they already had their numbers pre-set. So it was like, right, we're going to do 5 of whatever we pull out. Pulled out an exercise, that's what we're doing. Get the next one, that's what we're doing. Get the next one, that's what we're doing. And they created a workout with the same format. Now we could do this. This has got to be 5 rounds of time because of Alex's 2 to 6, 2 to 10. So it would be 5 rounds of 20 burpees, 3 rope climbs, 25 toes to bar, 2 strict press. Then I would suggest you decrease your weight, do the same, 4 strict press, do the same, 6 strict press. If I wrote that on the board, you guys would just come in and do it. You wouldn't even think about it. And why is that? Why is that? And that's because
we didn't want to drive back home again without doing something.
But let's think about it. Every time you come to class, it's indefinitely scalable. So some of us would go, that's going to be a challenge, it's going to take me 25 minutes, I'm going to do it RX. I think the majority of people would go, I'm going to turn up, let's see what happens. But most people would not do this workout as it's written here. Your rope climb might be just a rope lower. It might turn into ring rows. You know, we're going to change things for you so that we fit the right time frame for how long it would take the top 1% to complete that workout. So if it takes 20 minutes for someone that goes to the games and is right at the peak of their fitness, if it takes them 20 minutes, it should take you 20 minutes as well. And that's because we want to sit within the energy systems and sit within those modalities that we set for you, okay? That's why we scale. The scaling is not to try and like dampen your ego or anything. It is to try and finish your workout at the same time as everybody else within a few minutes. Whenever I started CrossFit, there were so many YouTube videos of like, yeah, I've done Fran and that's 21, 15, 9 thrusters and pull-ups and it took me 48 minutes. And you're like, you didn't really achieve anything because Fran should take you 3 to 5 minutes max. So if we take that, they did 1 pull-up every 3 minutes or whatever it works out at. What are you getting out of that? Nothing really. So we want to try and get all of your workouts within that time frame. We'll leave that there because I'll program it. Cool, so that's the hopper model, okay? We take those workouts, but it's not random. There is a coach's eye on it and an understanding of equipment, space, what your member base is like, things like that. So if I was to program this, there would actually be loads of scaling options for our rope climbs. The strict press is not going to be mad heavy because it's got to be from the floor, and that's because someone's put toes to bar in it. Okay? So then you start to have to think about what our member base looks like. Is it actually applicable to everyone? Like, if someone went, yeah, let's do 25 rope climbs, I'm not trying to hospitalise you all. So I'm just going to go, no, that's not the case. Okay? So when you shout out those numbers, there's actually a thought behind what do I think you'd be able to do? And what's not going to hurt you. Okay, there's a key behind that as well. Cool, next model. Energy systems. I did say sorry. I did say sorry.
It's just mean.
And that's because you look really drained. It is.
Chalk monsters out.
Actually, I'll take a picture. Take a picture.
Responsible for 75% of the chalk.
I was going to take a picture. So I've got the work. Okay. Careful. Practice agility. Okay. Different energy systems, I'm going to keep this one brief. So this is force on the side, this is time. I'm going to just kind of mark it across the bottom. The key important ones are that this is about 2 minutes here, this is 1 minute, that's about 2 seconds, thereabouts. And then we've got 10 seconds that's here. Now there's 4 different pathways. The first one's just kind of like stored energy. I'll draw these in different, and it's about 2 seconds. So you have stored energy within your cells. That will exert the most power, but will pretty much drop straight off. So we'll come down there. So 1 rep max deadlift, something like that. If it goes longer than 2 seconds, you might recruit a different energy system, but it's going to be there or thereabouts. Your next energy system is then your phosphagen system. This is like 100-meter sprinter. So when this one drains, the second one kind of kicks in and it will spike up, pretty much die off after about 10 seconds. You create ATP pretty quickly, but just from like your short-term energy stores. Then we get into glycolytic. We use this as 200-meter sprint, about 1 minute. New research shows it can get up to about 2 minutes. But essentially will look a bit more like that, excuse my pen, okay? Curve-wise in terms of your energy system. And then after that, you've got your aerobic, what colour have I not used? Black. So aerobic will be using oxygen to get you to a point where you can try and sustain exercise. So our overall energy will look a bit like that as we go. So this is your sprint. If, like me, on Saturday, you go too fast in your workouts, you start to die off. After 2 minutes, your aerobic energy system kicks in, and then you feel all right again. You start to coast and find your pace, okay? Now, the reason I wanted to teach you these are that these are considered with your programming. So the reason why we make some workouts really short, at 5 minutes or so, is actually they'll be a lot quicker. They'll feel horrible because they're really explosive. And that's because we want you to be right up here, okay? We want you to feel this high energy, explosive exercise. Sometimes, particularly if you do high rocks, they're 45 minutes long. Run for 7 minutes, then bike for 7 minutes. But your power output is going to be nowhere near this high because you couldn't sustain it anyway. So actually it's going to be like down here or even lower, depending on how fit you are, okay? We're trying to use and map loads of different workouts that will essentially hit different energy systems. And if we can then train you to be proficient in different energy systems, we can make you fitter. So that's why there's different time frames with workouts. And it then comes back to, if your coach says to you, this should take 5 minutes, but you decide to give them the middle finger and take half an hour, you're actually down here. You're working your aerobic capacity when you should be working a different energy system. So there's a bit of a science behind why we ask you to stick to those time frames, okay? And again, that's their third model. Last one, fitness, wellness, sickness continuum. And this comes back to the chronic disease aspect. So, fitness is super wellness, okay? You then have well in the middle, I'll show you this in a minute, and then you have sick. Now we can mark anything across those, and I even believe that you could mark movements on there. For example, if somebody cannot sit down and stand up independently without aid, I would classify them as sick, because they need help, they need intervention. If they can sit down, stand up independently, but they cannot move a weight, are they fit? Probably not. If you can squat your body weight, you'll be classified as fit, but probably not as fit as you possibly could be. You still have a way to go to be the fittest version of yourself. So we could mark any of these on this continuum. Now, if you fall within the sick for any of those markers, it identifies something that you therefore might want to work on. And it comes back to the very first slide of if you fall into the sickness aspect, you have a higher likelihood of developing a chronic disease. And so we're doing you a disservice if we don't try and strive you to push you towards improving those markers. So if you're on the in-body scanner and your body fat percentage fits somewhere between the sick and well, we want you to improve that. We want you to reduce your body fat mass. Not because I want to look at your Instagram pictures and go, oh, you look better now than you did. I don't give a shit what you look like. But the likelihood is that that's just a byproduct of you living a longer life. That's why we do it, okay? And yeah, you'll find different coaches that have different views. That's my view on it, okay? We want you living an independent life for as long as physically possible, okay? So yeah, you could continue to grow that list. This is out of the CrossFit Level 1 journal, and it's readily available. If you want to read the Level 1 article, then you can read that. But yeah, take any health marker, any fitness movement, whatever it might be. If you do a 2K row on a bike, a 2K row on a row machine, and it takes you 30 minutes, you're definitely sick. You're not fit enough to do a 2K, you're not well. If it takes you 10 minutes, you're probably well. If it takes you, world record is 131 average, I think, 121 average. 5 something, yeah. Then you're freaking fit, yeah, for that marker. Yeah, if you have high body fat percentage, but you still manage to do it, you're here for your body fat percentage, but you're there for your rowing time. So you can again mark all of your different markers on this scale, work out where you need to improve your fitness or health, if it's a health marker. Does that make sense with kind of defining fitness? There is actually a thought behind why we give you loads of different exercises. Yeah? Talk to me.
Yes.
Okay, cool. I'll keep this relatively brief. The prescription, this was what you were getting at.
Yeah.
Constantly varied, high intensity, functional movements. So this is to try and improve. Whose is that? Is that yours?
Sorry guys.
It's all right. So constantly varied means that we want to change all of those different exercises, different time frames, etc. We want you to be fit for whatever is thrown at you in life. Okay. Again, whether that's being in a car accident, running for the bus, whatever it might be. We're trying to make you fit for all aspects of your life. High intensity, we want you to basically try and increase every aspect of this curve as we come along. So it doesn't necessarily mean that we want you to win the 100-meter sprint and then you've achieved high intensity. It's whether you can sustain a higher power output in all aspects of what we've done. Did you do an FTP test, Alex? On a bike?
Yes.
Yeah, one of the worst workouts I've ever done. You do 20 minutes for the highest average wattage, I think. So you try and get to a high power output, and then you just suffer for 19 minutes to try and hold on to it. It's a horrible workout. But that's definitely high intensity. It's 20 minutes long. It's really high intensity. Marathon runners trying to maintain their pace to try and achieve a 2-hour marathon, that is really high intensity. So it's relative across all different time domains. Okay? And then functional movements, essentially move large loads over long distances. We want you to be fit for life. So once again, be able to play with your kids, move furniture, whatever it might be. We want you to be able to do all of those things that you might just get thrown at in day-to-day life. Jump on a trampoline, whatever it might be. Okay? Cool. Moving on. This is from the journal. I can only memorise the first bit. I don't remember the second bit. And the first bit is our nutrition prescription. Okay? Do you know it off the top of your head? No, definitely not. So the first bit I do remember because it's our nutrition prescription. So eat meat, vegetables, nuts and seeds, some fruit, little starch and no sugar. You need to eat amounts that complement your exercise but not add to your body fat. Okay? So let's break it down a little bit. This is not a nutrition lecture, but I just want to explain it a little. Eat meat means protein. Consume protein. Vegetables is vitamins, minerals, fibre. Okay, and that's why those two would be the most important. Nuts and seeds, what do they give you?
I don't know.
Fats, healthy fats. Yeah, and you want to try and implement that with the oils that you choose. Okay, so nut oils typically better than seed oils. Okay, some fruit, meaning don't live off of fruit, and it's relatively high in sugar in most cases. That's why it's some fruit. So limit the amount that you consume. Little starch. Give me an example of starchy carbohydrates. Potatoes, bread, pasta. Limit those, okay? Now, dependent on the level that you exercise, you'll then perhaps need to change that amount to complement your training. Because I, for one, cannot stomach 3 whole broccolis to try and get the right level of carbohydrates. So you will need to change your carbohydrate amount by adapting your starch level, as long as you're still eating lots of colourful vegetables. No sugar is an obvious one. This is just processed food. Okay, so try and avoid your processed food. Okay, now we're realistic, like we want you to live, so as long as 80% of it is this, and the 20% fits kind of here, then you're doing really, really well. You're doing better than the 75% of the world that die from a chronic disease. Okay? The rest comes down to just like constant variation of your exercise. So practice and train major lifts, deadlift, clean, squat, press, clean and jerk and snatch. Master the basics of your body weight movements. So pull-ups, dips, rope climbs, push-ups, sit-ups, presses. Things I can't do, pirouettes, flips, splits and holds. So these are flexibility exercises. If I can't do the splits, which I can't, I know you thought I was going to go straight into it. I have a limit in my flexibility, okay? I could be fitter by trying to improve my flexibility in my hips and my hamstrings. I'm not going to. I don't think I care enough about a flip or a split. But you see that if I went back to that continuum, and I marked myself on there, am I the fittest that I could be with my flexibility? No. So could I improve my health? Fitness? Yes, I could improve that. Depends on how important it is to you.
And it'd be really fun to train to be able to do this.
It would be really freaking cool. It's a good thing I can't do a backflip, because I think I would do it all the time.
The end of every workout.
I would definitely do it a lot. It'd be one of those fucking annoying things. You just say, oh, he's doing it again. Training levels, 5 to 6 days per week. Mix these into elements and as many combinations and patterns as creativity will allow you to do. We wrote a workout. You can creatively create your own workouts in that sense. Routine is the enemy. If you like running, don't just run all the time, okay? You will get used to that exercise and you won't work other things that improve your health and fitness. Okay? Regularly learn and play new sports. Now this is here because we want you to apply your fitness. That's why that's there at the bottom. It doesn't mean that you suddenly need to take up golf or whatever. It's there just to apply your fitness. So a new sport might be classified as, I've been training, I've never trained before in my life, I've never done a long hike on a Welsh hill, that's what I'm going to go and do. Okay, I'm going to go up Penny Fan and do that for the first time in my life. That is what we talk about when it's like playing the sports. Apply what you're learning into things that might give you joy, okay, outside of the gym. I'm cautious of time, so I'm going to say the prescription, why it works. Hopefully this comes up. No? So, broad adaptability, meaning that we can scale to people of all abilities, essentially. The universal application is that we can apply it to everyone because we can adapt the workouts to everybody. And that if we are striving to improve power output, we can do that with various different exercises. Then we have evidence to suggest that I could potentially make you guys fitter than somebody that only runs a 100-meter sprint, even if they're the best in the world. If they can't deadlift more than you, are they really the fittest that they could possibly be? So our goal is that we can use evidence by getting you to do your in-body scan, okay, look at your muscle mass, your body fat, where you're at in terms of your health, but also this is why we encourage you to put your workouts in your app, because if you don't do that and you just sit there thinking, what did I used to use on my back squat, and you don't know, you're not measuring whether you're actively improving your strength. So that's why we encourage you to put those workouts on. And that's also why the app has a function where you can hide it from the leaderboard. If you don't want people to see your scores and you want to just stay in your own lane, you can hide your results. You'd go to where it says RX scaled, you change it to hidden, you just hide your results. But you're still logging your scores. Okay, it just stays on your phone rather than showcasing it to everybody else. Does that make sense? Ultimate goal, to increase your fitness, preparing individuals for life's physical challenges, and as a byproduct, you will reduce your incident rate of chronic disease. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Fire any questions, if you have any. None?
Yeah.
Alex?
Where does something like Zone 2 training come into this?
This.
And into the gym?
Definitely high rocks. When we have like the longer cardiovascular sessions, definitely high rocks. The main goal of that would be to try and improve your like cardiovascular endurance over long time frames. Now, I don't know about these guys, but how would you feel if I said, right, you've got to come down for a 4-hour workout because we're going to be doing Zone 2?
I'd gobble that up.
Yeah. You might.
I'm not
How about you guys?
I don't
So,
know.
because our classes are limited to an hour,
Yeah.
it's hard for us to then be like, right guys, we're in, everyone just jump on a machine, off you go, just go slow for an hour.
Yeah, and I get that.
So-
I'm just trying to think where it would. Cause we did a workout a few days ago that was about flow or something or other, where there was no. Do you remember, Jamie?
Yes, quality.
Yeah,
For quality.
That
Yeah.
was it.
Yeah, so
Which was a lower heart rate for me, and I was just sort of chipping along.
yeah,
without
that's
doing too
fine.
much.
Like, and you could change your workout. So I've mentioned to some people in their in-body scans, like if they're managing injuries or whatever, or they're feeling like they're just run down because they've had a really stressful day at work, rather than going, fuck the gym, I don't want to go to the gym. If you feel like it's a really beneficial place for you to be, but you don't feel like you want to absolutely thrash yourself in the workout, you come to me, you come to Kirsten, you come to Jay, and you go, I'm just not feeling it today, coach. Like, can I just go easy? And we will turn it into a Zone 2
I think
workout
that leads
for
on
you.
to more of what I was saying actually. Is so
Yeah.
over 50, I can not do. I don't think I can do too many flat out workouts. Whenever I come in here though, I have to do it flat out.
You don't have to.
That's how I feel.
That's how you feel, but you don't have to.
So I need to
No,
dial it
not
back
at
a
all.
bit.
Let's take that workout that was today, 200 metre run into 5 lunges on each leg into 20 up downs. You could do a slow jog with your run. You could use a wooden pipe and just do slow lunges like that all the way through. And then with the up downs, step really slowly. You've turned it yourself into a Zone 2 workout, you're just doing the same.
It still wasn't.
Well,
I still managed
it's
it.
relative.
I still managed 9 minutes in Zone 4.
It's relative to what your Zone 2 is. Jenny, I hope you don't mind me saying, but you were managing your heart rate, right? So you had your zone marker, and she was trying to manage her heart rate based on zones. So would literally get a couple of minutes into a workout, then go, right, it's a little bit high, I'm just going to wait a bit, it comes back down, and then I continue on. So that's exactly what she did. She just adapted it to her heart rate zones. So you can do that. Sometimes we just need to be told. if that's what you want to do and that's how you feel, if you don't want to be like shouting out, why are you stopping? What are you doing? You just got to like explain to us that there's a thought behind it.
Yeah, I just feel like I get it.
Yeah, it can be adapted to the individual.
Yeah.
We're always going to try and strive to push you all as much as possible, because there'd be nothing more annoying than wanting to come in and hit it hard because you feel great, and then we're like, oh, we're all just going to take it easy today.
I think there is also a level of personal responsibility amongst athletes as well. So while it is tempting to just outsource all decision making to the coach at the front and hope that they don't notice that you've pulled off the weights or that you do whatever, you, with infinite scalability, does come some personal responsibility. Well, where are you? How are you feeling? What do you want to achieve today? You know, where we've got days that are like for quality or flow days, if that's your heavy day, your training day, well, fine, you go heavy, train hard that day.
Yeah.
So I think it is tempting to just outsource, but you have to take some responsibility on your journey as well.
Yeah, totally.
Like so that's a question.
Okay.
Is there a higher incidence of injury in CrossFit than other methodologies?
You know the answer, that's why you're asking.
Yeah.
So most people don't know this, but CrossFit actually won a lawsuit in the US because of a journal article that was written where they fabricated the results. So I can't remember what the journal was, but essentially a study was done where whoever was writing the journal walked into a CrossFit gym, they're an affiliated CrossFit gym, and they did a survey with the members that were there. And they basically said, like, how do you find your training? What are your risk of injury? Blah, blah, blah. They surveyed them. They then went back, I think it was 6 months, then a year later, and they noticed that some of those members were no longer there. Rather than finding them and asking them why they left, they put it down to they got injured, that's why they quit. And they put it in their journal article. And what CrossFit basically did was they sued them. They then found the participants of the study. They resurveyed them and said, no, I moved house. Or whatever, I started a different sport. Whatever, I didn't enjoy it as much as I had hoped. Whatever it might be. But they fabricated the results. However, Men's Health, Men's Fitness in the US published the results of the journal in a magazine. And so people then went, okay, great. Now when they then retract those statements, they put them right at the back of the magazine in tiny writing and go, we made a mistake. And you don't notice it. So people's perception that CrossFit hurts you and injures you is, one, they have never experienced it, or two, it's from that. It's fabricated journal article results. So, you know, I hope you see that your exercise is indefinitely scalable. And if I can get an 84-year-old to do CrossFit, I can definitely get anybody else to do it. Good question, Jay. Other questions?
Just for this probably more processing of what you've talked about tonight, Barry. But if we, like, we've all got our own taking responsibility for our own personal things and knowing what we want to work on. If we look at like the weeks of most of us come in like 3 times a week, 4 times a week, whatever. I wouldn't necessarily know what workouts I need to do to help me be more comfortable at a high heart rate, which is what we talked about. So do I sort of talk to one of you guys as you look at the week and go, well, actually, if you can, get here for these particular workouts?
Like the only time that would apply is if you're wanting to work on the strength cycle.
Okay.
All of the other workouts are again going to be constantly varied, high intensity, functional movements.
Okay.
So try and look at it over a 6-month window.
Yeah.
So how many times have you squatted, pressed, deadlift, clean jerk, snatched, pull-ups, push-ups, dips, whatever it might be, in a 6-month window?
Yeah.
I'm hoping that you've ticked that box quite a few times across all exercises in that time frame. So the number one thing is just be consistent.
So just basically don't worry. Just
don't worry about the
the
training days. Yeah,
okay, cool.
and what Jay was saying about wanting to push it a bit more. If for some reason, so we put Sunday as kind of a athlete's choice day. Like if you want to use it as a complete rest day and just calm and move really slow and steady, then you can do that. That's why we don't put prescribed weights on the board for a Sunday workout, because we don't want people to feel the pressure of, oh, that's RX, maybe I've got to use this percentage or that. We want you to just go by feel on those days. But if Sunday happens to be one of your definite training days, then you've got to go by feel. You turn up and you go, I feel good today, I'm going to go heavier or faster and increase the intensity. If you don't feel it that day, you've got to go a bit slower and steadier. Depends if you go out drinking on Saturday night, I suppose. So yeah, does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Cool.
When we were outside, when we did the boot camp, those of you that were with us at the summer, we kind of played the idea of Sunday being free flow Sunday, so we had kind of a structure, but very, very loose. But what happened was, all of the athletes turned up and went, right, what are we doing? No, yeah, we kind of said, I don't know what weights do I do? So, yeah.
That happens sometime in open gym. Like you watch people come in an open gym and you're just like, oh. What shall I do for an hour? 45 minutes later, I'll get a barbell out now. Yeah. Any other questions?
What would you say is the best thing about CrossFit and what is the worst thing about CrossFit?
Oh God.
I know.
That's like my own personal opinion. What's the best thing about, probably, I hate the word community because it gets thrown around too much, but the people that you meet like-minded people that like feeling uncomfortable sometimes, but at the end go, thanks. They put their hand up, they're like bleeding from the nose. Thanks, coach. You're welcome. That's probably my favourite thing, is that you could see people have worked really freaking hard and they thank you for it. My own opinion is I don't like the games. I don't think it's good for the image that it creates. I know some people really love the competitive aspect of CrossFit, but I've seen too many people come in as an inquiry and then go, I'm not fit enough to do it, I'll come back in 2 years, and they never come back. Like, it's just the reality of it. And it's because they Googled it, and that's the first thing that comes up. And that's kind of CrossFit's fault. I had a story from Eton, when Eton was open. Have we got any ex-Eton members? Jamie was, yeah, you guys were. You had a member that had diabetes, and they did a video on it, didn't
Yes,
they?
yeah.
And it was amazing. Do you remember what her name was?
Liz.
Liz?
Liz.
Yeah?
Yeah, she's stronger.
Yeah. So, to give you essentially the story from how I saw it, I wasn't at Eton, but I saw the YouTube video come up and I watched it, and it was basically her story about how she had quite a few kids.
7.
Yeah. That she really committed some training time to just get in at least 3 times a week and improve her health. And did she completely reverse her type 2 diabetes?
Yeah, completely off all the
Yeah.
meds, yeah.
And CrossFit did a post about it. That was before they sacked their media team. And so you don't really get those stories anymore unless we invest time and money to create them ourselves and then try and push them out there as best as we can. But we're trying to, run a gym at the same time. So, in my opinion, the games detracts from that, which is the bigger picture, ultimately. To try and have more members like that. I have one story from New Wave, where I used to be head coach, and I had absolutely no idea that this member was on antidepressants. I did a nutrition lecture, spoke about how taking omega-3s can be anti-inflammatory, really good for your diet, showed them what kind of omega-3s I used. They went away. I knew nothing of it. He come up to me about 2 months later and was like, I've implemented the omega-3s. I have had to halve my antidepressants because I feel like I'm a bit spacey. I feel almost too happy. So I've halved them. And then when I left New Wave, he came up to me and was like, without you, I would not have come off my antidepressants. That's why I do my job. Just relieve that there. It's a pretty cool way to end, right?
Can I just get you all to write there a little thank you to Barry, who's taken his own time to put this together for you. I think
You're welcome.
hopefully you can see Barry's passion for, I want to say for CrossFit,